to episode 13 of Up the Waterfall podcast.
Number 13.
Oh, we should have done like a Tower of Terror episode or something. I wasn't thinking. Well, that's not what this is about. Anyway, we're your hosts before I get too far into digressing. Zanna and Scott Otis.
Hello.
And Up the Waterfall, if you're just joining us, is a journey up the waterfall of Disney parks, history and facts and nostalgia.
And overall fun.
And present day stuff as well, which is what this episode is as well. So we thank you, of course, for joining us as always. We remind you that the view is the same from every seat. So let's enjoy the show. And this show in particular is about Disney Plus, which is the newest corporate entity, I guess, if you will, of
the shiny new toy
of the Walt Disney Company.
That's right. That we've been enjoying since November 12th.
You may have heard us discussing Disney Plus, or you anyway, on our very first episode.
Well, that's right.
Which was the history of the D23 Expos.
That's where...
Seems like just yesterday.
Yes.
I know. I was thinking about that earlier and how we were like over on the other side of the room in that tiny space where we had nothing.
But yeah, it was at the D23 Expo where they had that giant Disney Plus. It's not. I can't even call it a booth, but it was a giant presence. It was kind of the center of the entire expo, and everything was kind of surrounding it.
I mean, ever since
thing.
Then, they really have been ramping up the promotion of Disney Plus, and now it's here as of the 12th, as you said. We, of course, are members. We probably would not be having this episode if we weren't. There wouldn't be too much to talk about.
Let's think about getting Disney Plus.
It was part of the Founders Circle, that thing, that very first deal that they had where you can get 3 years worth for $140.97, or just under $4 a month for 3 years.
Yeah. And what's funny is I just logged in on my laptop because I've never done that since it's been open. I've only done it on the app on my phone and then the TV. But when you log in, it goes to a founders.disneyplus.com URL. So fancy. Apparently there's a message that comes up in the app too. I haven't opened it since I saw that on Twitter that says, "Thank you for being a Founders Circle member."
Yeah, it was available from the time the first day of the expo all the way through, I believe, Labor Day is that first deal. And there's several deals that you can get afterwards, but not as good as that first deal. I think pass holders get a deal. And
did you already say what the price was or no?
I did.
I wasn't listening, sorry.
It's okay. It was just under $4 a month for 3 years, but it was the big 3-year package.
A good deal. There's annual pass holder discount. There's something else, wasn't there? I can't remember.
Well, they offer.
I guess D23 in general had a discount, even if you weren't getting it at Expo.
But now they're offering it in several different areas as well. Like I think Verizon now offers it as an add-on
free year
if you get their unlimited package.
Yes, if you already have unlimited.
Okay.
You can get it for free for a year.
And then they also have deals where they lump it in with ESPN Plus and Hulu with ads.
Which we already had Hulu.
And if you get all of those together, including the Hulu with ads, it all comes up to even just less than what Netflix is per month. So they're trying to be competitive, and they've got a lot of content to put out there, too.
And, of course, they recently announced if you are a cast member, you can choose if you want to keep receiving your main gate pass, which, if you're not familiar with, is like that's how you get other people into the park, and gives you discounts on food and merchandise. Well, I guess you can get that.
It's actually just the main entrance pass, so the cast member would still be able to get themselves into the parks, and they still get their merchandise discounts and all that. It is literally just the thing that gets their guests into the park, which seems kind of weird. Like,
most people were saying, why would anyone pick that?
But I mean, there are cast members. Like when I was young, a long time ago, and I had nobody ever come visit me, I never got anybody into the parks. So that, when I was young and single, and that would have been a pretty good deal.
And there are some people that aren't working at Disney because they love Disney. I mean, let's face it. There's a
actually
lot of people.
those.
There's a ton of cast members, and some of them could care less that it's,
Yes.
Disney parks and they don't want to go there.
And then there's another group of couples that both work at Disney where they would be able to,
Enjoy
get their
both.
one pass, and then they still have a spouse pass, and then that other the other member would get the subscription. So
or
it could work
people
for them
that
too.
don't live in near a park.
That's true.
Because there's cast members all over.
That's true.
So yeah, lots of people can join and have joined. Some people are holding out to see if it's worth it. We are not those people.
No, we've been enjoying it since I think it was 3 a.m. on that.
Yeah, you were on there giving us all profile avatars, and we woke up and...
Everyone say what your profile pic is.
Well,
I chose Oswald, the lucky rabbit.
Yeah, he chose Oswald for himself, and he chose Merida from Brave,
which you have since changed.
I mean, I do like that, but my favorite character, I guess, in the past has always been the Cheshire Cat, so
That's
I changed
mine too.
to that. I don't know if that's still the case. I'd have to stop and think about all
I'm
the new
surprised I didn't
characters
choose that
have-
for myself, because I love that character, but
He's
I felt
fun.
Oswald was kind of one for me.
Christian has, of course, Nick Jonas. So
I initially chose...
who is the only Jonas brother you can get?
I think I chose Kylo Ren for him initially, but
You did.
I changed him.
That spoke volumes about your opinion.
And I chose little baby Groot for Geo.
Who's... Oh, wait. No, Geo changed his
He's
to...
now the Mandalorian, right?
Mandalorian guy, yeah.
And
Sophia has not been on yet, so she's still Kim Possible whether she likes it or not.
that's right. She can change it if she'd like.
And we have a generic one too, which I don't really know what that
because you
main
can actually have
account's for.
7 profiles on there.
Oh, okay.
And I guess we chose one kind of for the family in general, which is Mickey Mouse.
But we don't usually use that.
No.
But I'll get into more weird things in a minute. But I was going to say, it doesn't really cater your screen to what you personally have watched. That's not
what they do, though, is
yet.
they have a watch list for each profile that you can put the shows that you want to watch on there, and then keep that to your own watch list so that other people aren't affected.
I don't think it's very useful, honestly. I think they do have a lot of improvements to make in the interface, the platform itself, whatever you call it, user interface, because I put some things on my watch list initially, and one of them was the Imagineering story, which we'll get to in a minute, and the Mandalorian, I think, and stuff like that. And I assumed that because they were in my watch list, when the new episode came out last week, it would be like, hey, here's a new episode for you to watch, but it doesn't do that.
Yeah, it's kind of weird that way.
It's just in there, and you have to go, and it doesn't say oh, you've already watched this, so now this is the newest one.
And if it's one like a movie, for example, that doesn't have episodes, it's just a single one. If you've watched it, that doesn't remove it from your watch list. You'd have to do that yourself.
And the recommended for me, I mean, I've got Boy Meets World in here.
That's a good show.
Sweet Life on Deck. All right, that's fine. Lizzie McGuire, I was never into. All the Star Wars stuff, Phineas and Ferb. So, I mean, it's really not geared to me.
Flaws are in the UI.
Yeah. So, I don't know how long they've been developing this, but there is, the feedback option.
Yes.
I think it's only on the app, right? You can't do it on your TV or something. And you can either suggest a show that you think should be added or just a generic.
And that was a good one because
feedback.
there are a bunch of shows like Vault Disney kind of things, the old stuff, which I think that they are eventually going to put on there.
Right.
But stuff that I'd really like to see. And
I think it was great that they did start out with a couple of those old
they had.
Disneyland
What was the one that you
specials.
watched?
There was the Disneyland Around the Seasons.
Yes, and
which we talked about.
That's a great show.
In
That's
the
just
holidays episode.
That's right. Or the Holidays at Disneyland. The last
Holidays
episode.
at Disneyland. And then the Plausible Impossible, which I still haven't had a chance to watch
and those
yet.
are 2 great shows from, the series that was Disneyland and then became Walt Disney Presents, The Wonderful World of Color, that whole series. But there's so many of those that basically it started in 1954 with the lead up to Disneyland, the park. And it went all the way through, the 60s and the 70s. And so they're, with one episode a week, and they did eventually have repeats, there is so much content that they can add there. And that's the stuff. That's gold.
Yeah.
And the fact that they only put 2 of those on there initially, okay, that's good that they have that, but we want more of that. More. Then there is a lot.
It's hurting no one to add those.
Yeah, like the Disneyland opening day special.
Yeah.
The one with the New Orleans Square and the Tomorrowland, the one with the Osmond brothers and Kurt Russell and all that.
Yes.
Or even the one, the Tencennial one with Walt Disney and Julie
Which
Reed.
you can see a clip of at the end of every single...
That's right.
Well, you can hear it if you're listening, but if you're watching on YouTube, you get to see it. And every single time I don't watch our whole episodes back, but I scroll through to see how terrible I look and stuff. But at the end, Christian puts in, the clip that is where we got our name from.
That's right.
And it makes me smile every single time. So that
where you go
special is really...
Up the waterfall?
Yes.
That's right. Anything's possible at Disneyland.
She says that little...
I like the little camera that Walt's holding. But anyway,
our next episode will be all about that clip. Just kidding.
But yeah, and then Walt goes to the fair and all kinds of things like that. There's just so much content that they can put on there.
Yeah, and we'll circle around to that again probably.
Yes, but I'd like to because I do have to talk about
again with the user interface, it is very sleek and pretty to look at.
Yeah.
As far as functionality, it definitely could be improved. So you do have that feedback button. So if you are a member and you are agreeing with us that it could use some improvements, make sure you send in those feedback things. They do have a Twitter account that's like Disney Plus guest service or something. I forget. Disney Plus help, maybe.
It's weird when you have it's an account it's a thing that has a plus sign. So you can't often have that in a name. So they actually spell out the word plus in a lot of that. True.
And that's the hashtag I've been using anyway, is
that's right.
Disney Plus. But let's jump into some of the content and why we both agree that it is worth.
Oh my gosh!
Definitely what we're paying, but we would probably pay a little more for it, which hopefully Disney's not listening to that.
And I know that they were kind of really trying to promote Lady and the Tramp and that.
Yes.
But to me, the 2 big ones were the Imagineering story and the Mandalorian.
And I honestly had zero interest in watching the Mandalorian before this appeared in my living room.
Why?
Just let me jump in there. It is at Disney Plus Help on Twitter.
Oh, okay.
If anyone's, I don't know how, I haven't been keeping track. I don't know how good they are at actually answering people.
I'll bet pretty good.
But that is an option if you're suggesting
because there were some
issues
on the opening day or the first day of that with people trying to basically add it to their, whether it be on the TV or on the Roku or whatever they had. And then also getting into it. There were some issues on the first day. But
right, which I can see both sides to that because it is like a lot of people trying to log in all at once versus Netflix. It's not like they announced Netflix and 1 million people joined. It was kind of like a slow moving
it used
wave.
to be the CD renting service.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so
or DVD, sorry.
Yeah. Anyway, so back to the Mandalorian. I had no interest in really watching it because I've kind of gotten Star Wars fatigue, I guess, which Christian talks about Marvel fatigue a lot in his movie reviews. But I still haven't even seen Solo, which I guess I can see eventually on here.
Yeah, that's one of the titles that's not available on the opening day of Disney Plus because they have some contractual issues with Netflix or Stars. Or
right, which is going to be a weird thing to think about. I was talking about that to Christian today. It'll be a new way of doing, like, do we promote Blu-rays, and how long do we do that? Do we send them directly to Disney Plus?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they do that. But now they have their personal streaming platform, and they don't have to go through Hulu or Netflix or anything or Stars, and basically go straight to Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Or and then also the DVD and Blu-ray sales,
which is fine with us because we have it. Anyway, had very little interest in Mandalorian. Getting back to that same topic, I did enjoy Rogue One when I finally saw it.
Yeah.
And I did enjoy what was the last one?
There was episode 7.
Force Awakens.
There was
Jedi is the most recent one.
Yeah, there was episode 7, The Force Awakens, and episode 8, The Last Jedi.
Is that what's coming out now?
No, episode 9 is coming out in a month.
What's that called? Oh, Rise of Skywalker. Got it. Okay, sorry. I used to be a fan. Sorry.
Star Wars fan.
She's an original series Star Wars fan.
I am. There's too much to keep track of and too many long names. But I did enjoy The Force Awakens. I kind of liked the Last Jedi.
Last Jedi, right.
Sorry. I had mixed feelings about that. But because of all of that, and there's just so much hype around all of it, and so many different, backstories. Plus, we had Galaxy's
Clone Wars,
Edge. Yeah, that whole thing.
And the Rebels and all that middle stuff.
Right. And we had Galaxy's Edge a lot around these parts.
Yes.
So I was just kind of like, oh yeah, Mandalorian. I always loved Boba Fett as a character. He just was like a cool guy. So I was interested from that perspective, but I wasn't like, I have to see this right now. But then we did watch it because you were like, it's only 40 minutes long. You can do that. And I did. And then, I
had no idea when we were watching that you were...
That I had no interest.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it really drew me right in. Like, that's my level of Star Wars interest, is little 40-minute episodes.
Okay.
Which I think is almost, I'm just pulling this out of, my head at this point, but I think maybe that's what George Lucas, since they were originally based on like a radio kind of serial series of like, that's what he was originally going for when he made the movies, was that kind of genre, if you will. I don't know. I could just be talking out of my ear at this point, but I think it lends itself to that kind of storytelling where it's like, a cliffhanger ending in every episode, and you don't have to wait 2 years or something to get the next part of the story. And of course, I'm not going to spoil anything, but Baby Yoda, or whatever he is, the child, as he's called in the episode, has been everywhere on every news channel at this point. So he is a major reason for me to watch because he's adorable. Or she. Yeah. I don't know what it is at this point. The child is adorable. And I will probably be getting the merchandise that they announced will be coming out. So
yeah. And, and you also see other familiar characters like the Jawa.
Yeah, I really liked the updated, they had a little update to their special effects. Their little eyes were much more glowy.
It's really interesting storytelling, and I understand that they use some different filming techniques for that to make it look really like almost movie-like. So we'll get into all of that, but it's really a great show.
Yeah.
So we haven't yet seen episode 3, which is already out, but we need to
We're
get
behind.
into that.
We've been busy Christmasing.
That's right.
I think even if it was a longer episode, I would watch it, because there's so many original series on Netflix and Hulu and stuff like that are longer and that are compelling enough to make people get the service because of it. I don't know if Mandalorian's at that level, but
I don't know. But there are some Star Wars series that have been announced that are going to be coming out, including Cassian Andor, which is the Diego Luna's character from
I
Rogue
love him.
One.
Yes.
He's going to have his own series. There's an Obi-Wan series where Ewan McGregor will be coming back to...
that's reason enough for me to sign up.
And then they're also going to do another season of the Clone Wars that's going to be exclusively on Disney Plus as well, season 7.
When is that coming out? Do you know?
I think sometime either next year or the following year. I know
we have time to catch up.
I don't have all of the different dates, but yeah, they talk about whether it's 2020 or 2020 or 2021.
All right, well, we'll have time, is my point, to catch up on everything.
But to me, the big highlight was the Imagineering story. That, because I was a big fan of, this is how I got into Disney. When the Disney Channel came out in 1983, that was the stuff that I really liked, is when they showed the Walt Disney Presents or Epcot magazine or, even the Walt Disney family show that they had, which was like 30-minute retrospectives on each of the Imagineers, things like that.
I feel like I missed those Imagineering specials, but I definitely, and this was one of the things I suggested in feedback, remember watching the Epcot magazine. I was fascinated by that.
Oh my gosh.
And yeah, I mean, I definitely watched everything that the Disney Channel had in 1983. Like I woke up with Mousercise and watched Donald Duck Presents later, and even
Mousterpiece Theater
and Dumbo Circus and Welcome to Pooh Corner.
Oh yeah.
All those things. But my love for Disney was definitely already for the parks.
Yes. So anything that they had on the parks, to me, that was what I was drawn to. And so this is now a series. It's going to be 6 episodes in total with about an hour each. The first 3 are already out, and we've only seen the first 2.
Yeah.
But it's essentially the history of Walt Disney and coming, creating Imagineering, and basically the story of Imagineering and everything that they've done. And so the first one was basically Walt's life all the way through the creation of Disneyland. And actually, that one went all the way up till when he passed.
Yeah, that's what I like about them, is it's not like this is the Disneyland episode. It's just they're all purely timeline related. So the one that I was calling the Epcot episode isn't really just Epcot. It's also Tokyo Disneyland and other things that were going on.
The fair, or basically everything that happened from Walt Disney's passing all the way through the opening of Tokyo Disneyland. So it had, Epcot was a big part of that. Tokyo Disneyland, of course, too. But then also, the creation of basically the opening of Walt Disney World was a big thing.
Yeah, that's right.
There. And then, big attractions like Space Mountain.
And we had just done our Space Mountain episode, so it was fun to see that represented in a show.
So, to me, this is the best thing on Disney Plus by far. And I've watched the first 2 episodes multiple times where I've paused on certain scenes to be able to see a model that they have on there, and they have, I grew up watching all this stuff, and they have so much in here that I have never seen in any of these shows, and it's just jam-packed full of all of this stuff.
And they have so many interviews with people that actually did the work. Either, in the first episode, it worked with Walt, because there are still a handful of those people around.
But they took clips from the Walt Disney.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. They weren't specifically done for this episode. Some of the interviews were already existing. And things like
so
that.
When you have Exitencio and Mark Davis, those interviews came from that show. And they have quite a lot with Marty Sklar, even though he's now passed for a couple of years now. Mm-hmm. But they also have the modern day. I mean, not modern day, but like Eddie Sato and Tom Morris, and even Tony Baxter and Dick Nunis are in there. And were they just talking about all of these things?
Yeah, and that's another fun episode, because a couple of those guys are on Twitter promoting the show itself, and you can interact with them and talk to them and tell them how great.
And the whole show is done. The whole show is done by Leslie Iwerks and her that group that put that together. And actually, she's from the Iwerks family. That all started with Ub Iwerks, who worked with Walt and created Mickey Mouse. And then Don Iwerks, he's also featured in this. But anyway, there's just so much. Basically, really, they're opening the doors of Imagineering and inviting the cameras in, and you see so much backstage stuff.
Yeah.
That is just really cool to see, and about how it all got created. Seeing all of the models of everything. Like, they even take Bob Gurr up into the Matterhorn, into the guts of the Matterhorn, which is kind of like an attraction that he essentially created.
Yeah, that was a very heartwarming, and I may have shed a tear watching it.
Yeah. So, and gosh.
And it's fun to see. It's not all just, through rose-colored glasses.
Oh,
they
certainly
show
not.
the issues and problems that they had. It was interesting to hear Card Walker, like some sort of conference he was giving, and like, I'm not seeing too much on the creative side, and we've got like a year left or whatever it was, a couple of months to go.
Yeah.
So it was really interesting to see those things, and like Mark Davis talking about why Haunted Mansion hadn't happened before then. Like, there was too many, art directors in the room,
there was like a clash of creative ideas between the weird and the whimsical.
Because these days with Disney, and certainly even my role in social media and things like that, the messaging is very polished, and they don't talk about that kind of stuff.
Not at all. They did what they had to do to get the job done.
Yeah. And so it's interesting to see, the other side to things, that it's not all just like, hey, this is perfect.
Yeah. And so even like just in the last, all of the time to the creation of Disney World and how they had to get everything done. And then, of course, later when Epcot was coming, and the crunch that they had to do to basically from the time that they broke ground until the opening of Epcot.
Yeah.
That was 3 years in total. And that was $1 billion project in 1982 dollars.
Mm-hmm.
So they had a lot to do, and they did it. And so it's just fun to see all of the, the behind the scenes kind of stuff.
Definitely.
And so to me, this was like the best thing ever.
So watch that show if you haven't. This is not going to be a play-by-play of every episode, since we've only seen 2.
We might want to do that later, though, because it's that good.
Well, we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I mean, I wish that it was like a year-long series, then they were 2 hours each. But, I'll take what I can get.
I mean, so it's essentially, it'll be 6 episodes, about an hour long each. And I'll be able to go through that many times over, but then I'm going to want more.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think the feedback has been very positive, both on, places like Disney Twitter and actual news sources and things like that. It's been very positive as one of the best things to come out of Disney Plus. Yeah. So
absolutely.
Hopefully they will definitely do more of those things.
Yeah.
Another original, if you want to just tick off some of the original ones, is The World According to Jeff Goldblum.
Oh, yeah. I actually saw Jeff Goldblum at the expo, and he was...
Did you say hi to him?
I did. He was a very dapper cat.
I'm a big Jeff Goldblum fan, and I watched the 2 episodes that I have seen so far. I think there's probably a third one now, because everything seems to come out on Friday, but I have not seen it or the topic.
So, yeah, the first 2 are on sneakers and ice cream.
Right now, because I have it up.
Just basically,
it's fun to watch, but if you're not a Jeff Goldblum fan, like, it's a lot of Jeff Goldblum,
but to us,
saying, "Look at how great Jeff Goldblum is." Honestly, Tattoos is the next one. That's right. I forgot. We did see the preview for that.
Interesting.
So it is funny. He's a quirky guy, and it's fun to watch. But it's a lot of just
where he basically kind of delves into the origins and also
it does have a story
weird
behind it.
Kind of the weird side stories and all of the characters that are in that world.
Yes.
Of sneakers or ice cream or tattoos.
And that's actually through the National Geographic section of Disney Plus. So it is an educational kind of, here's what's happening in the world kind of thing. Mm-hmm. What is another one of the
Another
Encore?
One is, why don't you go ahead and talk about Encore, since I have not. No, I haven't tried it yet.
I saw Encore. It was like a weird thing that appeared somewhere, and I saw an episode of it before it was associated with Disney Plus, and I think it was still Kristen Bell that was doing it.
Okay.
But it was her high school that she went back to and did. I think perhaps I might be getting that wrong. So anyway, what she is kind of the host for it, and it showcases a high school that could be like 15 to 20 years since they graduated, the senior class, and they do their high school musical, whatever it was, the year they graduated, again with the same cast.
Just many years later.
Yeah, they usually involve the director somehow if they're still around. But they bring in a director from either Broadway or off Broadway, so that's always interesting. And then they have their own like musical team that comes in to do the singing and the music parts, and they have a dance captain that comes in and teaches them choreography.
Interesting.
So it's not just let's put on a show. It is also a kind of emotional journey, if you will, from all of the people in high school that many of whom haven't seen each other since they graduated. So you see where they are in their lives now. And some of them, I think every episode, someone has gone through a tragedy. So they've had to deal with that as well, or overcome something. And I'm sure they've, picked these groups of people for a specific reason. And in addition, there's a lot of, I really miss performing. I really wish that I had.
I'm sure many of them did not.
Yeah, most of them did not. And so it's kind of fun to see as someone that was, in high school theater and did not obviously pursue it or do anything with it. And then my children then, did the same thing, and now they've gone on and are not in that realm either. So it's interesting to see how it's not just singing, it's not just acting, it's the community as well. And that's, I think, why so many people are drawn to theater in high school, because that's where you find your people a lot of times when you don't fit in somewhere else. So for me personally, I enjoyed the show. It's a little cheesy in parts, and it's not the most polished production when they're done, but and I don't think it's for everyone. I don't think you would be super interested in it. You haven't watched it, but
having gone now through the theater world with our two oldest kids, and seeing them both do the back of the scenes work, and then also acting and singing, it's definitely a realm I'm interested in, and I would probably like to see that.
Well, it's on Disney Plus, so you can watch it anytime.
There you go. But then I guess that leads into the other kind of high school musical part of that.
That's all you.
Which is, what is it called? High School Musical, the series, the musical? Or the
High School Musical, the musical, the series. I don't know which order you say it in, because it's just on the logo.
Right, so what this is it is actually a fictional kind of, almost like a, what do you call it? Like a series. Mockumentary like style. Office. Yes, like The Office. Where they actually, it takes place in the high school where the original High School Musical, the movie, was filmed. And
but it's not a real high school.
Right. And so they get a new theater teacher who wants to put on a performance of High School the Musical.
You guys never do High School Musical. You're the high school.
And so it stars a bunch of the kids that go to this school, and how, they have certain vibes, like, Gabriella and who's the other one? Troy and Chad.
Wow, big fan.
Well, it's been a while since I've seen the original movie. I was a fan of the original movie and the sequel.
It was the first movie I watched on Disney Plus.
Oh, really?
Absolutely.
But anyway, it's a fun thing, and they have people who are absolutely going to get the Gabriella and Troy parts to this, but then wait, there's a flip, and it's not those two, it's these two, and so
just like in the movie.
Exactly.
I have seen all of the original movies because I have children that are now 20 and 19. So that was the time frame when they came out, and I never became a fan because I was too old to appreciate it. But you're older than me and did appreciate it, so
because of the Kenny Ortega.
I am. Yeah,
that's true.
I am a Kenny Ortega fan. I actually get a Christmas card from him every Christmas, because I think about 5% of the original theater gross of the original Newsies movie, because I went to see that in the theater many, many times, and I even brought people. I'm an original Newsies fan.
That's true. So. But you like all of those Disney Channel originals. Like
I do.
I never got into like Lizzie McGuire and all of that stuff. So you're a weird enigma demographic that is not what they're going for.
No, they're definitely not.
You're not quite at the creepy guy.
But it's not to the point where I'm not allowed to enjoy this. It's fun.
Yeah, no, I'm not casting aspersions, of course, but I just never got into it. So
that's fine.
I have zero interest in High School Musical, the series.com.
It's probably, of course, catered to people younger than myself, but hey, there's something for them too. And have
you watched it, Christian, or no?
I've actually seen bits and pieces because I think it was playing on Disney Channel or Freeform.
Oh, that's right. They played it before. Yeah. What did you think?
I thought it was weird because I didn't know that it was fictional before.
Yeah.
They make, since it's a mockumentary, it almost makes it look like this is actually happening.
I think when they first did like the trailer or whatever for it at Expo, I thought it would be really cool if it was real.
Because that is a real school.
Yeah. Yeah. But then when they started doing like the confessional interviews of the cast or the high school people, I was like, oh, this is not real life.
But it's fun.
It's, of course, an exaggerated
yes it is
view of the different types of high school people.
But I recommend it, and I actually am looking forward to seeing the next couple of episodes.
Just get ready for season 2 when it's during summer.
Ooh, like High School Musical 2, where they have to work at a golf resort somewhere.
Yes. Where are they in like Arizona or
this
something?
This is Utah.
Utah. Mm-hmm. Something orange, I remember.
That's right.
Well, the show is in Utah, but the movie takes place in
New Mexico.
School
But that's
High School Musical
Southwest. Yeah, anyway. Okay, so
that's another original series that exists.
Yes, and then they also created a couple of movies for the launch date, including the one that they were really touting is Lady and the Tramp, because they've been doing a lot of these, taking Disney animated classics and putting live action updates to them.
Yes.
And so they've done that now with Lady and the Tramp. And
no spoilers. Please.
Well, he doesn't do spoilers anyway.
But there really aren't spoilers because I'm assuming that everyone has seen Lady and the Tramp. The movie.
That's true.
So,
but they are definitely trying to update it as far as the cast, and it's not set in the. Is it set in the same time?
Yeah, set in the same time period. Absolutely.
I remember watching a trailer and being like, "Oh wait, why did they not?"
No, they did
do the same.
It's
not in winter though, or something.
It is. Oh no. The whole thing takes place over the course of a year. It starts in winter and ends in the following winter.
I forget what upset me about it, but it was something because I really love the animated version because when it zooms in that opening shot and it's like the New England town.
But they did that. And I don't think it's New England.
No, the movie filmed in Savannah.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
They filmed it in Savannah, and it is.
There's no snow or anything, right?
No, there is snow, but it's not set in Savannah.
Oh, okay.
It's just set in kind of like mid-America or.
I'm mad for no reason.
Okay. It was just filmed in Savannah.
Crack your skull to figure out what you're mad about.
But the thing is, they do have there are horse-drawn vehicles as well as motorized vehicles. So it's
all of the original dogs? I mean, not original, but characters in it still, like Jock and
Jock and Trusty.
The same dog actors?
So anyway, they had Jock and Trusty, and Lady and the Tramp, and they had the dogs from the Dog Pound, and the main nemesis is the Peggy Lee's character. Yes, is in there absolutely. But the only major change was that Cy and Am, the Siamese cats, are no longer Siamese. They are just cats that are
called the same thing.
No, they are not.
That would be
They
weird.
were not named, and I think that's due to cultural issues. Just regular tabby.
Siamese cats still exist, and they're still called Siamese cats. But the Cy and Am names are kind of racist, I'm sure. But Lady and the Tramp is, besides that, I mean, the way they drew them was very racist. Yes, I guess. But also, there's like worse.
I would say culturally insensitive.
Culturally insensitive. Okay. I mean, every everything was at that time.
Yes.
Like the Aristocats is very bad for
yes.
that. And Peter Pan, which people
yes.
often forget about, and I like to remind them that Peter Pan is very culturally insensitive.
Yes. And Dumbo, parts of Dumbo.
Yes.
And
Dumbo as well. And that's a good point to make, to throw
in
here that
do an aside.
Disney Plus is showing, I think, all of these,
not
Song of the South, but all of the movies
thought
that they have
that they were going to
uploaded.
cut those scenes, but they didn't. But they added a kind of like a little
disclosure note that there are
that when it originally aired, it was
which are culturally insensitive, irrelevant. I forget how they worded it. I'll have to look one up.
I can't remember the exact words, but anyway.
And then they'll say things like, "And it features tobacco use," because of back then. I don't even know what to look up.
But anyway, so they do have they have Jacques and Trusty and the Lady and the Tramp and bad other street dogs and things like that. But essentially it tells the same story, and it was very interesting how they did that. They did use actual dogs, but then they, I believe, use like photorealistic animation to make it look as if they were talking, because they actually do speak. I think it's similar to how the most recent live action The Lion King was done,
which I still haven't seen.
I
should have watched Lady and the Tramp before this. I didn't have time to do that.
I will say that
because you like everything, so
the Italian restaurant scene was just beautiful, where they share a plate of spaghetti and meatballs.
The first trailer I saw, I really liked it, and I even teared up a little because, as I said, I really loved the original movie. But then the subsequent trailer, I was like, oh no, this is not for me. I just did not think the voice actors matched the dogs.
And that's a fair thing.
And I wasn't a huge fan of how Tramp looked compared to, I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
Tramp definitely looks
a
little bit different. Lady, of course, is just a regular Cocker Spaniel.
Yeah.
But there are scenes that I thought, they're kind of corny. They definitely cut out the whole zoo scene with the...
That was the other thing I was mad about. They got rid of... He's just a statue now.
Yeah,
right?
They have a beaver as that. He's a part of a statue that they used to cut the muzzle off of a lady. So that was...
We do that around here a lot. Have we?
Well, anyway, but ultimately, it's a very sweet movie, and there are some corny bits that are whatever.
I'm sure I will see it eventually. Yeah. I mean, that's the good point.
I would recommend it, and I'd love to see it again with you.
There's something for everyone.
Yeah.
At Disney Plus.
But then they also had a live-action movie, Noelle.
Before we get into that, I did find the correct terminology.
Please.
It says that this program is presented as originally created. It may contain outdated cultural depictions.
There you go.
So they leave it open to interpretation with
they don't say this was racist.
Well, because I think they do that on a lot of stuff, regardless of whether it does or not.
Yes.
That's true. And Disney legal is perhaps the best legal that exists. So they're going to say what they need to say to cover themselves and all of their bases. Anyway, Noelle, yes, I did see that one.
Yes. So this is a... would you like to talk about Noelle? It's a fun Christmas movie.
When we saw the trailer that came out during Expo, and of course you saw her costumes and all that, I was really excited by it. I thought it looked funny and cute. And as mentioned when I did my last Christmas review on Zannaland.com, which is not a Disney movie, but I still went to see it and reviewed it. Sophia and I are huge fans of Hallmark movies, and most of them take place at Christmas time.
Yes,
so
they do.
This kind of dovetailed nicely into, I thought, our interests. Sophia had no interest in seeing it at all. She thought it looked dumb, which is, her opinion of most things that we enjoy, which is fine. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. You probably have someone like that in your family. But then I was worried that it was going to be kind of like movies, for me personally, movies that are like try to make a phrase or like put a twist on a common phrase to make it like their own for the movie. Like for this, it was "Oh My Garland" and stuff like that. Generally, I'm not a fan of that sort of thing.
My mind.
It very rarely takes off like they intend it to. So I think for me personally, it makes it seem cheesy. But I mean, the whole movie is kind of like that anyway, which again is fine. It's a fun romp. It's a fun Christmas tale. I don't want to do a full review of Noelle and
that's okay.
Pick it apart, but it's pretty to look at. I love Anna Kendrick, so.
And I like Bill Hader, so. Yeah,
I mean, he's not really even in it that much. I do like Billy Eichner, not so much in this movie, but anyway, if you like, a fun Christmas something going on in the background, it's fun to put on, I guess.
Yeah.
They really tried really hard to like update a lot of things. And I think kind of maybe there was too many things that they were trying to. What did you actually like it, or?
Yeah, I thought it was cute.
You have, very low.
I mean,
standards.
I preferred Lady and the Tramp to it, but.
All right. Well, that exists as well, and there's probably going to be a lot more original things as well as original series coming to Disney+.
Yeah, there's a couple more that they did a Marvel Hero Project where they're looking at real life heroes in everyday America. There's Disney Family Sundays, which seems almost like that family fun magazine set to a like a live action thing where they're doing kids projects. It's more for families with younger children. They had Spark Shorts, which includes basically it's kind of like Pixar shorts, were done by people that work at Pixar who had ideas for kind of some of their shorts.
Yeah.
So they had a couple of more of those short movies, which ran in length anywhere from like 6 to 13 minutes. And then they had a National Geographic documentary called Science Fair that kind of looks at nine people's. I know we're not a huge fan of science fair projects.
I can cross that one off my list. Can I delete that from the app, or?
No, you cannot delete it from the app. It's a fine documentary that has nothing to do with science fair projects being forced into our lives.
Well, I think a lot of these originals is kind of like trying to figure out what plays and what doesn't play. So I think we'll see that change over time.
Each of the different categories, just to have something for everyone.
It is the first, family-centric streaming service. So they really do need to cater to everyone. And I think that.
Yeah, and then they even have a tiny short called Forky Asks a Question, where they take that crazy character from Toy Story 4.
That was actually one of the first things Christian and I watched.
Yeah, I mean, they're like 3 minutes in length, but
because it's like super quick.
He's like, what are friends? Or what is money? That kind of, or what is art? That's the third one. And just, because...
I mean, I guess that would kind of be like those little interstitials on like Nick Jr. or something like that, or Disney Channel, I guess. So it's kind of weird to have that on a thing, but if weird, you had like a small person at home,
Forky is kind of a weird character who kind of loses focus very quickly.
He has no will to live, but then I guess he gets it in the end.
So they have those two, but they do have a lot of things that are announced for the future.
Like what?
Well, for example, 8, not 6, but 8 whole Marvel series that they have planned. And I'm excited about quite a lot of these. Yeah, there's one on Loki, the character.
Between that and the Obi-Wan thing, I'll be fine.
Yeah.
But there's also that, you probably have the name of it.
I do.
Scarlet Witch.
Yeah, there's WandaVision.
WandaVision. I'm really excited for that.
Which takes the characters of, the Scarlet. What?
Scarlet Witch is like what her character was originally.
And Vision.
And puts them in a house, like a 50s sitcom.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it's a sitcom, is it?
They said it's like a comedy thing, kind of.
Like half 50s sitcom and half like Twin Peaks, I think he said.
Ooh. That sounds even better.
They do have interesting powers, so it'll be interesting. But then there's also going to be one on Hawkeye. And another one on Falcon and the Winter Soldier, where they put those two characters together. Anyway, Falcon and the Winter Soldier as well.
Oh, that's fun together. I had to process that in my head.
Because you were making a snide remark about Hawkeye at the time, I believe it was.
I mean,
That's okay.
He's hot.
Then they're
He
also...
knows what he's doing,
Yeah, exactly.
But anyway, they also have one on She-Hulk, which is kind of
right.
like
I remember that announcement.
I think like a cousin or
that goes
something
beyond my
of
realm of comic book
Bruce
knowledge,
Banner.
so I will figure that out later.
Yeah, one called Moon Knight.
Yes, I remember that too. Yes, I'm excited for that.
One called Miss Marvel, which is actually an animated series that includes the first Muslim superhero. It's a girl.
Fun.
Yeah, and then another animated one called What If, where they take certain aspects in the Marvel Cinematic Universe and say, what if something different happened? I think like the first one is going to be like, what if Agent Carter was the one who was given all of that stuff that happened to Captain America?
What if indeed?
Yeah, so that sounds interesting. And I already talked about all the different Star Wars ones that are going to be coming. And then there's a couple of other ones that are coming out, including one called Cinema Relics, where it's kind of like they're looking at kind of like a behind the scenes of some famous things that have appeared in movies.
That's fun.
One called Magic of the Animal Kingdom that will actually be backstage at Animal Kingdom and Epcot about the veterinary work that are taking place at those places.
At Epcot?
Well, there's the living seas.
Oh, right. I always forget those are animals.
Yeah, there are animals.
Fish are people too.
I think of like walking around ones when I think of animals.
And then another one called Be Our Chef, which I think is like a cooking series.
Fun.
Yeah.
Will that be Beauty and the Beast or Remy themed?
I don't know. Maybe a combination.
There's crossover potential there.
And a couple others. I'm not familiar with exactly what they're about. There's Earth Keepers. There's Reconnect, which I think is brought to us by Kelly Ripa and Mark Consuelos. Another thing called Rogue Trip. And another one called Shop Class.
The first time ever hearing of any of these.
Me too. You've done your research, but not enough to tell us what they are.
Just enough to pique your interest. And then they're even doing a movie.
Now we have to subscribe to
I guess so.
And then another one called The Diary of a Female President.
Huh.
So, and then Bob Iger has even promised, like, since we now have the Fox library, he's promising possible remakes of another Home Alone. I guess, or reimaginings of a new Home Alone. Diary of a Wimpy Kid. Night at the Museum. Cheaper by the Dozen. And things like that.
Interesting. I hope that they do not ruin those.
Yeah, so who knows what will happen with that. But because there's the Fox library, there are also some Fox things that have been placed on there. I know that I've seen Miracle on 34th Street.
That's fun.
The Sound of Music is on
there.
And of course,
Simpsons,
the big thing is The Simpsons. They have all 30 seasons now of The Simpsons? Every episode with a couple of notable exceptions where they've been mysteriously, I guess, lost.
They
Not
can't
sure why.
handle those cultural differences or whatever.
I mean, it's weird enough
No disclaimer can say that.
Exactly.
It's weird enough when you have the things like The Simpsons, which definitely has a lot of things that's definitely considered inappropriate to Disney standards. But I guess that's the whole thing when you add Fox to the whole bit.
And it is 2019. I mean, how bad are The Simpsons, relatively speaking? I'm very worried about the Home Alone redo. I hope they don't ruin that.
Who knows?
I think as evidenced by, Home Alone 3, where it's like a different kid in there. There can only be one Macaulay Culkin. You can't capture lightning in a bottle a second
time. What if they
time.
do it again with him now?
No.
That would be interesting, and I would want to see that. For sure. So make that happen, Disney and Fox. Although that would be a weird premise. If it's like, I'm a grown adult and I'm home alone. What do I do? I guess there's not really much story there. Anyway, Scott does not approve of my ramblings, I guess.
No, I like ramblings. It's fun.
This is just where my brain goes,
That's fun.
Other fun things that you can see on Disney Plus are, of course, the original Mickey Mouse shorts.
Yes.
And the Donald Duck ones are on there, I believe. I'm not sure of all of the like Pluto things.
Yeah,
and
there's
stuff.
all kinds of great things that they've added there. I like that they have also even the Tron animated series on there.
Fun.
But the thing is, they have tons of animated series that have come out over the years, like one on Big Hero 6.
Right. And the Tangled one, and
yeah,
they're all in there.
And that's great. And so there's literally just tons and tons of things. One of the search options that they have there is that you can look at Disney through the decades.
Yes.
And you can go through each decade, starting in the 1920s and 30s, and all the way to present day, and look at every option that came out in those decades. So you can see a lot of the older stuff by going that way. If you go through the 2010s, there's tons of stuff in the 2000s because there's a lot of current stuff out there.
Yes.
So then they've also added fun search kind of categories where they even have like things like beasts and monsters or like best friends or nostalgic movies or great sports feel-good sports movies, that kind of thing. So but the only other thing is that I think we said that we were going to talk about this when we spoke about it in the past, is the things that we want to see in the future.
Yeah. Circling back
because
to that.
I mean, I talked about
all
a bunch of the
things
that have been announced, but that's the thing, is a lot of people got excited to Disney Plus. They logged in first day. They've been watching all of these series, but each one of these series that we've been enjoying, they're all going to come to an end at some point, and we're going to want something new. And they've announced a bunch of new things.
And by
but
new, we mean old.
well, but I mean also good stuff too.
Right.
So the thing is, they just have to continuously put out great content.
Yeah, and I think
for this thing to work.
Because I talk about Disney Twitter on here a lot because that's where a lot of instant feedback happens and news and things like that for the Disney community. There's a lot of Disney communities out there, but that's, one that I watch every now and then.
Yeah.
But that people on there may be super loving the Imagineering story and all the old vintage things and stuff like that. But that's one small portion of the country. And, when they get this in the UK and stuff like that, the world, that we need to make sure everyone's voice is heard and that hopefully they will do more of these.
Yeah, I mean, it's great that this will be a repository for pretty much a vast majority of the Disney content. Like all of the animated films will be on there, all of the Pixar films. They're eventually going to have all of the Star Wars movies and all of the series. And there's a couple of Marvel movies that contractually are not even able to get on there. But there's 4 that have been left off due to contractual negotiations that will be on there in the future. And so it's great that they're going to have most of that there. But we're going to want new content and stuff that's as good as The Mandalorian and the Imagineering story. And so hopefully we get that. And so I was actually thinking about my days of watching the Disney Channel way back in the past, because we were talking about how we want all that old stuff. But like I remember, like in the first couple of years of the Disney Channel, they actually had like a 10-part miniseries on Treasure Island, where they were retelling the story of Treasure Island, kind of up to date, at least as of that day, where Jim Hawkins was a little bit now a young adult. And I very much enjoyed that. And so I'm wondering, like, would something like that ever show up there? Some of these old things that people have just completely forgotten about over the course of 20, 30 years that exist somewhere in a library somewhere. And they can, make it look nice and put it on there. And I think that's the kind of thing I would like to see.
Well,
in addition to all of those old episodes of, as I mentioned, Disneyland and Walt Disney Presents and the Epcot magazine and things like that. Stuff that has been out on the Disney Channel, or stuff, even like Christmas parades from the 80s that has been on TV one time, but I'll bet that there's an interest from some
to think
people.
About.
Like
at the ultimate Disney Plus, they would have literally every piece of content they've ever released. That would be fun, but that would probably be a lot more expensive, I guess.
But would it need to be? Even if nobody watches each thing, if just enough people watch it, couldn't they do that?
I don't know. Do they run out of little space in their little
I have no idea.
Disney Plus tubes?
If they add tubes, I think they can do it.
Yeah. And
so anyway,
we didn't mention, but this has been a big bonus for Disney Plus too, is all of those old like 60s and 70s live action and 80s movies that Disney came out with, like the Apple Dumpling Gang and all those things that people Christian's age may not have ever seen before, but we grew up seeing them shown again on the Disney Channel. Exactly. And things like The Flight of the Navigator and stuff like that, which is one of my favorites from the 80s.
Yeah, I know a lot of younger people that they do have the Disney Channel original movies. They have the entire collection of, I think there's like 100+ of those that they've added. So there's something for everyone.
Yeah.
So I like that there's just tons of things.
And get. Yeah. Oh wait, no, don't do that.
Or subscribe. Basically,
DisneyPlus.com. We make no money from that.
That's right.
Promotion for this entire episode, but anyway.
So I think this has been a fun look at
Disney and certainly it was not as deep a dive as we could have done, because you have a lot of history and knowledge of titles that I do not have.
But hopefully they'll
apparently knowledge of titles from the future.
Yes, that we have not even thought about.
But anyway, hopefully all of those things will show up and that they'll all be good and fun to see.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to kind of poke through there and see what happens. Yeah. Disney Plus them.
Well, thank you for joining us for this Disney Plus episode.
Yeah.
Where we went kind of in depth and kind of an overview of everything. If you aren't a subscriber, let us know why you're not. I'm interested to hear.
Or what it would take for you to become a subscriber.
What would be worth it for you? Is it just a cost issue, like you have too many other things? A lot of people they still have cable and they have Netflix and Hulu, which we actually do too, but I don't think you'll ever get rid of cable because you have your sport ball that you watch. Anyway, let us know what your favorite thing about Disney Plus is, if you have it, and what you're most excited for in the future. Pretty much, any comment will be fun.
Yeah, we'd love to hear. Anything that you have to say about this.
Yes. And we thank you for listening. If you are watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe and set up notifications so you know when we do a new podcast or vlog or just random video out and about. Mm-hmm. And if you're just listening on a podcast listening device, I think phones they usually call them, then please rate us and, leave a comment there if you're able to.
Please
give us a review so we can get the word out.
Absolutely.
Tell your friends, basically.
Yes, do share.
Yeah. Thank you for listening, as always, and we will see you again up the waterfall.
That's right.
I stole your line.
Anything's possible at Disneyland.
Wait, we didn't go to Disneyland this time.
We did.
Okay.
The Imagineering story.
We can go to Disneyland anytime on Disney Plus.
That's right. Up the waterfall.
That is absolutely fantastic.
Well, that's only part of it. I got a big climatic scene.
But how could you top it?
Well, we set the place on fire, and we have our audience trapped down in this flaming city.
And how can they get out then?
Well, now you got into this mess by going down a waterfall. Now, how would you suppose we get them out of there?
By going up the waterfall?
That's right. Anything's possible in Disneyland.